My name is Derek Mazzoni. I'm co-founder of Sama, Seattle Sacred Music and Art. We are a nonprofit focusing on presenting artists from immigrant, BIPOC, and indigenous communities throughout the Pacific Northwest. We're also doing work in Lisbon and Warsaw. I'm an immigrant. We work outside of the country a lot. This is our second year with Seattle Theater Group, who are putting on this beautiful performance called Think Fest, and we're honored to be here. We're specifically focused on presenting artists of indigenous communities in the Olympic Peninsula as a way to make sure that the people that are visiting this particular festival are aware of the ancient, powerful traditions that are here. We acknowledge that this festival is on the ancestral homelands of the S'Klallam peoples, and Jefferson County is on the traditional lands of many different tribes of the Olympic Peninsula. Native peoples have lived on and stewarded these lands since time immemorial and continue to do so today. It is my honor to present to you today Lois Landgrebe, who was born in Seattle, Washington, and has roots in the Duwamish and Nez Perce tribes. She attended Antioch University, earning a degree in liberal studies with a minor in elementary education. Lois has significantly contributed to the tribal language revitalization and played a key role in the Lushitussid dictionary. Joining the Tulalip Cultural Resource Department in 1994, she deepened her connection to her heritage through her birth mother, Carol McKay, in 2017, and in 2018, Lois served as the chairwoman for the Northwest Indian Storytellers Association. A guiding quote for her comes from her mentor, V. Hilbert: "We breathe life into our stories, share them so they are remembered." You're going to remember this for a long time. Please, a round of applause for Lois Landgrebe.
O Golapo Hach Siayaya. O folks, good friends. Tigwitid Quiguas Alab Altias Lachel. Thank you for being here today. Daha Dubs Chalep Altia Uguadil Chalapa Olakat Subj. You honor me by coming here, sitting down, and listening to the gifts I have to offer. So, Chlutilib Chud, Tis Tilib Zich, Al Tiich Uskoalik. I'd like to start out with a drum song because it's very traditional for our people to open with a song, and it kind of pulls everybody together as one heartbeat. This song is the Tulalip Blessing Song. And this was gifted by one of our former late leaders. His Indian name was Chairwoman. His English name was Stan Jones, Sr., and he had been on our Tulalip Board of Directors on and off for about 42 years. So he dedicated a lot of his life being our leader. And the tradition for the Snohomish people is if we have an abundance of something, we share it. So that's where the function of potlatch comes forward. You know, you share all that abundance and gift to others and not just your family. And so he did this with this song. He gifted this song to Tulalip. So it's not just his family that's breathing life into this song, but it's every tribal member. So in that way, the song is stronger and it blesses more. So, and I'm bringing it to you guys today. Thank you. Yao Yeshta seeds dot. Yao Yeshta is my Indian name. Lois Landgrebe seeds dot. Lois Landgrebe is my English name. I introduce my Indian name and identity first because that's where I draw my energy and essence to tell stories, to stand before you, to have shaky knees, and to sing songs, do drum songs. So this is a very important essence to always honor that side of me. So I'm gonna head over here. I have my first story. I made a visual, and this was for, I did this for children, so to kind of give them that, something to look at. But I've learned throughout the years how to tell it to children, more so to keep it in a little more oral tradition, because I think it's important to keep that essence going, to keep that mode of imagination. Having a book, I tell kids, it's great to have a book and visual, but it's good to also have that human connection where they see my face expression and the movement, and you get into it just as much as you would a TV show. So this here is called the Legend of Halwa. So hope you guys don't mind if I sit. I'm not used to sitting. So is this ready to go? Okay. So Halwa was a very important figure in stories, and he was known as the great hunter. Halwa, H dos wheat. So there was Halwa. He was a very important hunter. He was known throughout the land. He was a handsome man. So this is what made him also pretty famous. So, Altia dias lechel, ulud sia shladai. One day he had learned about this wonderful woman. Hue quiguas chlu toltia siahob, or toltia siatsab. He didn't want to direct his news just to her. So just like in Cinderella, if the kids, do all of you know the story of Cinderella? Yes. So he sent out word just like a prince of the land, and not to have a specific great ball, but to send out a test. And siatsab twaltia shladai altia swatufted. He sent out word that he was looking for a wife and that all women were eligible. Chill, chisab, all. So, and they were to come to his home to pass a couple tests. So all the ladies of the land had an opportunity. Ulutub sia Solach. So Solach is this lady's name. Dai ha shladai. She was a industrious and humble woman. So she heard the news, and so us hide sia toltiich. And she knew she would have an opportunity too. O uyatsab tia satsali stododak. And so she had informed her 2 slaves. And yes, back then there were slaves. So there was noble, commoner, and slaves as statuses in the Peguadalt all altered. So this was the way it was in the village time. So lot tia iti chachas. So she had an elder man and a young boy as her slaves. So ugudguat olgua, and they would talk it over, and they would go and collect certain material, because she whispered to them and told them both, you go and get the ferns, you go and get the roots. And so it's like she knew. Elagwil alti el beads. And so they get into their canoe. Lauluch twaltia stolak. And they would travel along the river. Ulu ushuch tia quagwiched. And they saw elk. And uchalelt. And they come ashore. Oh, uwilliquid. Oh, jaguas chafusi degui. And so that's when elk asked, will you be my wife? And utsutsab utsia. Toch chud waialiwa. She said, oh, I am looking just for a waialiwa. And she would offer a small gift in return, and showing that his question was still important to her. And so they would continue on. Bala ulu. But shuch tia kalks. So then they came upon this man, kalks ti, and it was Raven. And Raven poking out his chest and saying, I can take care of you. H chud, I'm pretty important. And so that's when, again, utsutsab utsi solach, she said again, ho chud waialiwa. I am just looking for waialiwa. And again, she offered him in return a gift. So to show his question was important. And bala ulu. A tia lot stobj. Hoigol williquid. Again, he would ask, oh, jaguas chafu si degui. And again, what was her reply? I wonder if the kids have been listening. Wait, what did she say when he asked, will you be my, what'd she say again?
No, thank you. Would you be my wife? No,
What was her particular answer was, she's only looking for who? Yes. And did she just push away, or what did she do? Yep, saying yeah. Because if somebody was rejecting you, it would probably hurt a little, wouldn't it? So that's why we have that type of act in our culture, to be careful on stepping on feelings. Oh, daikate. This was a very important. Chatwood ti. Oh, aswalach chad chada. Asqueq. So I did that both in northern and southern Lashutzid. I'm double that strong. That's when Solach again said, Hol chad waialiwa. I am just looking for Waialiwa. Oh, a te hek pe godalt. O u as high dub at si solach, and that's when Solach knew whose home this was. And bachad ti ich sil itzab, and it had a whole bunch of blankets, like a pathway, kind of like a red carpet. Bala ebash toltia pe godalt. Ti ich solach all ti ich itzab. She was the only one that walked on the blankets. Oh, I went too soon. But anyway, I'll tell you the test. Godil al ti'ich sali hod al tia pe godalt at ti Waialiwa. There was 2 fires. Godil, so they sat there inside of the longhouse. Ilaba al tia eight sok. There was a lot of smoke all of a sudden coming from one fire, filling up the whole room. And that's when Solach whispered for him, Bachad al tihod. She said, put that down, put your ferns, or put those leaves onto the fire. And that's when he placed it, and it simmered down the smoke and the fire. And the other fire stoked up hot, high and hard. And that's when she whispered to the other, and they had placed the roots onto the fire, and the fire simmered down because they were damp enough to, and of course, no, it went the other way around, and it smoked. Then they put the ferns. And so that's when the door, and he's not supposed to be standing there. The door opened, and Ati Waialiwa, he was there. He had watched the whole moment. I did miss an important fact. When they came ashore in the canoe, the slaves knew to bring in her canoe sideways and into, because that was a proper way for nobility to come ashore. And so when they did that, he watched. And then, of course, the fire test. And so that's when he sent out word that Hoi Guaspid, they were going to be married. So, Hoi Guaspid Olgwa, when they were getting married, Laebash tia Doquibach. There was a Doquibach, which is a great being that was walking through the land, changing things to the way they are today. He saw these two so much in love, the Do Code, he changed them to what they are today, which is the wampum shell and dentalion shell. And they're both very important in cultures. Dich sois, that is the end. I wanted to point out a moment. This is a mini bridge that had separated Marysville from the Tulalip Reservation a long time ago. The above is Solach and her 2 slaves, which is the canoe that goes across. So I kind of wanted to point that out as the history of how the story had continued from the oral time up until now. So I wanted to point that out. So thank you. before I go into my next story, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy, this is a gift that was given to me by my grandson and my husband, and it is called the Hunter, and I absolutely love it. It's I decided yesterday, even before coming here and doing this, I decided that his name's going to be Waialiwa. And he is made by Kelly Moses. He was carved. And he is retiring as a carver. So he's slowly, closing shop because his age and all. So, but all three of these are crafted and carved from Kelly Moses at Tulalip. This right here is called the first salmon man. So, and Hek Ulad. And he was my first. I got him in 2005. I got state certified through Washington through the First People Language and History certification. So he was a gift from my master teacher. So, and this here is the scary one. My grandson will tell you I couldn't sleep the first night. It was put up on our wall. And this is called Swayo. And there's a reason it's kind of a bit scary. It is the basket ogress. And all basket ogress masks have that pursed mouth because she's either hungry or she's singing or so that's Swayo. So my next story is going to be about Waialiwa. I have been storytelling since I was 14 years old. My stepmother made it difficult for my sister and I to be sisters during the day. I was marked as a black sheep. So me and her shared a bedroom. And she was in kindergarten. And I had put her to sleep by telling her a little small story. And she absolutely loved it. So she, after a few days or a few nights, she would ask me if I would storytell to her, when she had a hard time going to sleep. She would always give me a little notion that, oh, I'm tired, good night, everybody. And I'd go in there and curl up in bed with her in her bed and tell her stories. And I developed a very long story about forest animals as a community. And I would stop it after 20 minutes or a half hour and pick it back up the next night. So she absolutely loved it. So she was my first audience. So I was relinquished at birth. I think that was said earlier. I did not grow up with my people, and I became a tribal member at 21, and meeting my birth mother. She seeked me out, and we both met each other, and she got me enrolled in the Tulalip Tribes. I didn't know too much of my heritage or too much of the background or anything of my people, and I applied for a job not knowing one word. And from what he's an ancestor now, but he was my director and manager from Cultural Resources, Hank Gobin said, "You take to the language like salmon to water." That was the exact way he said it to me. And I think that being what I call a cultural blank, I absorb everything because being away and not knowing nothing about yourself or nothing about your background, or because everybody wants to know, what tribe are you from? I always had to say, I don't know. And then you start to wonder, why? Why do I not know? What happened? So with all that being answered, it was just amazing to come up, have this opportunity to become that, a second speaker, immersed in as much as I can as possible. So this is a story about Pheasant and Raven. So, all a tooty too hawk, a long time ago, when people could be animals and animals could be very good. A tia caux, e ti squalobe. There lived Raven and Pheasant. Obs beat bada a quika. They both were burdened with a lot of children. And some, on the reservation are burdened with a lot of children. So, tagwa. So they were burdened with hungry children. So I'm pretty sure bored children and hungry children. And so that's when ukachtia squalobe. That's when Pheasant woke up one morning and thought, I need to go out further than I've ever gone. Ushabob tiich squalobe. So Pheasant was poor, and we had what we called not quite land ownership, but kind of. There was kind of a region that families used. And so he sometimes had to bypass that and bypass more to get to where he needed to get food. And so packed a pack, his wife helped him, and off he went. Down the pathway, in over the hill and into the woods. When he got to the edge of the woods, this was where it was all strange land from there on. And so he took a tokshad twaltia. He took his first foreign land step, and off he went. Now, techech tia gut. Oh, he had to take care because he was just a little guy. And so he was watching and he was going. Hots to eat squally. And so he came across grass that was tall. And again, he had to take care because he was a little guy. And so Uchiltia shok, and he came across this path. And this was a path used by hunters. And so he dashed on the path, watching and listening and ready to jump and hide in case he had to, because he was just a little guy. And so he came to where it was a crossroad or a cross paths. And he stood there, kind of looking around. And then he heard this sound that sounded like thunder, like a and he looked around. It ain't gonna rain, and no cloud in the sky. Then he heard this, ruff, ruff, ruff. And he thought, he thought, is that a big dog? Meat mon squabai? Is it a little dog? Again, he was getting ready to run. And then he heard a strange sound afterwards. And it went, satu, satu, say, satu, satu, say, satu, satu, say. And he thought, kind of grabbed his gut for a second. Then out from in front of him Twaltia hot squalobe. Altia hot snwali. It was this great big elk came from the tall grass and landed in front of him. And when it landed, it made that thunder sound. And then out of nowhere, Ututsil, this arrow came and hit it and butched, and it fell right there. He thought, Chida, hey, Quaguichet, that's a big elk. Then out of that same direction, Twaltia Hebach Hek Skobai. There was this big black hunting dog. And when it landed, it sniffed the elk and shoot Twalti Squalobe. And then it looked at Pheasant. Pheasant went, Quat touched Twaltia, us meat man, swat toofted. He climbed into this tree. It was a small tree, but he climbed into it. And I was like, And so, Ubak gok Twaltia Squalobe. And it barked towards Pheasant. Then, Ati H Stobsh. Hui Quigwa Shuch. Guk. So this man, this being came from the same direction, and it was this tall man, and he was so brilliant, you couldn't look at him. And he said this important word, and he dimmed himself. And he said the second word, and the dog butched Twalti. So that's when the dog laid down, stopped barking. And then he said again these words, and his regalia you could see. It was all red and gold, and it was this beautiful layers upon a rainbow type look, this faded away. And on his belt were live woodpeckers, such and such and say, such and such say. And when he said the word again, the woodpecker stopped. And he sniffed the air. He said, Squalobe, Squalobe, atla. He said, Ushash sabab. He said, Pheasant, come out, I can smell you. And that's when Pheasant came down out of the tree and walked over, knees shaking like I am today. No. And he said, Squalobe. He said, Quiad Twalti Squabai. He said, call to your dog. And the black dog raised his head and looked at Squalobe. And Squalobe took a step back and lowered his head and said, Shabab chud, Hue Quigwa Squabai. He said, Gua Dagui. He said, I am too poor. I don't own a dog. It must be yours. And so that's when the Hek Stobe, the big man, nodded his head. Squalobe. Say, Butch Twalti Quaguiched, Techid. He says, this is your game, it's fallen. Take care of it. Again, Squalobe's stomach went like a twang. And he took another step back and said, he says, no. He goes, not my game. He goes, it must be yours. So that's when he said, I like Squalobe, he thought. He said, Squalobe. He says, Waialiwa Chud. He says, I am Waialiwa. He says, and I know you've come here because of your family, and I am here to help you. So he unsheathed his knife and knelt down and started taking care of the elk meat. And Squalobe was like, still shaking. And he thought, oh, his heart was just leaping because he realized that his troubles have been answered. And so that's when Waialewa came across some towel and he said, Squalob. And he said, oh, here, he tosses it towards him. Squalob caught it and he had a little bag, and so he knew his children liked it. So he nibbled just a little and put the rest away for his children. And that's when Waialewa went, oh yes, I like Squalob. And he folded the meat into a neat pack. And he lifted up the pack and he said, Squalob, Zolk suit, turn around. And so when he put it on him, and Squalob started to fall back and he caught him. And he put it forward and fixed it a little bit. And then Squalob started to go sideways and he caught him and fixed it. And Squalob started to go and he fixed it. And he says, are you okay? And he started to go forward and he caught him and fixed it. That's when he was balanced. He said, Squalob, he goes, you must take this to your family, but you must follow my instruction. He says, you are only to rest 4 times. He says, you are not to eat from the pack. He says, and you are not to let it touch the ground. And so that's when Squalob was, he says, Globe. And he said he was profusely just, thank you. And so he was on his way. And so going along, you're happy, excited. Eventually, the aches start to catch up to you. So his shoulder started to hurt, and he did his first on this boulder, and he sat there thinking about how his family is going to get all this help. His second was by a stream, and he decided that he would sip a little bit. He wanted to reach back, but he thought, his stomach, he thought, just that towel, just a little. So when he sipped a little bit sipped from the stream. I'm sorry, he's more human in my stories. And so he was on his way again. And his next, he was really feeling the heaviness and the aches. But he still would keep a good mind saying, okay, I can do this. And he was on his way, on his 4th rest spot. He could see the smoke of the longhouses. And it just gave him that final energy. When you're almost there, you just got that, just a little bit more. And so when he got there into his house, his wife was so happy to see him and his kids and all. And so that's when he realized, when he was talking away, oh my goodness, and I ran into, and you'll never, he was telling how you get so excited you want to share everything with your family, the details, what they call it, count and coop. And so that's when he finally realized, yes, I can take it off, even though it ached. And he took it off and he felt, and when it hit the ground, it sprung open. And all the rows of meat were all ready for the meals. And that's when the wife was so excited so that's when he took he forgot the towel, and he gave it to his kids. And they ran outside. And so I don't know what it is, you guys. But anyway, they ran outside to nibble, their favorite little. And that's when the children of, who's the neighbor? Yes. So that's when all the Raven kids jumped out. The keek-cow-cowks all went, hey, what do you got? No, nothing. No, we saw. And they ran home. Dad. They went inside, and they got food. They're over there, and we're all hungry. What's going on? So that's when Raven stood up and went, Oh, it's been a long time since I've seen my neighbor. And then he went over and, hey, Pheasant, what's happening? And that's when he's like, oh, he said, nothing. And he said, oh, and he said, started to try to tell him about what he had been through. And of course, Raven wasn't a listener. Oh, that's good. It's a rhetorical question. Oh, I know where that is. Okay. Well, I'm out of here. And he left. And that's when Pheasant went, maybe he might find him, maybe not. So that's when he went into his house, opened the door, and grabbed his pack and yelled to the wife, I'm out of here. And off he went, not knowing where he was going or what was going on. So he went down the path, over the hill, into the woods, all the way through the woods. And he saw all the beaten path of his neighbor, Pheasant. So he followed his footsteps, since Pheasant was the pioneer. So when he came to the path of the path of the hunters, and he'd run along until he came to where? Yep, the cross. And he stood there, okay, this is it. What's going on? And all of a sudden, what was the first sound he heard? Huh? Yes. And he thought, there's no storm. And what was the second sound he heard? Barking, very good. That's in Lashutsi for bark. And that's when he thought, is there a herd of dogs? And then he heard, yeah, do you know the sounds of it? Yeah, close. Satu, satu, say, satu, satu, say, satu, satu, say. And so that's when, of course, he said, what was that? And then all of a sudden, out came, yes, and Raven goes, my elk! And it landed on him. Because the arrow already hit and and he was like, oh, get off me. Oh. It goes, man, instead of the way Pheasant did, that's a big elk. That's a big elk. And then what? The Hilbert squabite. The black dog came out, didn't even bother with the elk. He was Raven. And Raven's like, back. And back. Then out came H.T. Stobes, Waialiwa. Very good. And so he said that important word, and he dimmed himself. He said the word twice because the first time, so he had to calm the dog down. Dog did not like Raven, so laid down, and the woodpecker stopped. And he sniffed the air and said, Raven. What does he say? I can smell. And that's when Raven went, I showered. He came down out of the tree and came over and said, I'm Raven. And so he goes, what was the first test? Call to your, yes. And Raven, come here, Poochie.
And Dog jumped up and had Raven's whole head in his mouth. Waialewa had to say the magic word and calm him down. And so that's when he thought, Raven. And he said, take care of your game, it has fallen here. Raven goes, yes, I'm the great hunter. And that's when Waialewa, the great hunter, says, oh, okay, great hunter, where's your knife? I forgot it. He says, Raven, and unsheathes, I know that you have help, you need help with your family. He says, and I'm here and I can help. And he knelt down and started getting the elk meat ready. Tossed Raven the towel, here you go. What does Raven do? Yep. Ate the whole thing. And that's when he thought, oh, okay, Raven. He folded the meat and folded it and folded it. And he says, Raven, turn around. So when Raven turned around and puts it on his back, and he starts to tip over and he caught him. And he said, hey, I got it. And so that's when, okay, Waialewa said, Raven, there are certain things you need to follow in order to take this home to your family. He says, what was the first one? Yeah, only rest 4 times. Can't let it touch the ground. And yes. And he thought, oh, why? And so that's when he stood there for a moment while he said, these are the guidelines. Okay, boom. And he dashes off. Partway even to the first rest, he's already feeling sore and heavy. And so he should have let him fix it. But anyway, he got to the first, sat there, mumbled, this is getting pretty heavy already. And so the second rest was at the stream. And he was sitting there sipping, and he thought, I can take a nibble. Nobody will know. That's when he took another sip, and it got heavier. That's when he got up and headed, and he was like partway there going, man, goes, this is really, maybe there is an elk on my shoulder. And he started heading, and he sat at the next on a log. He finally goes, I'm the great hunter. Why do I have guidelines? And so that's when he came to the last. He can see the smoke coming up from the longhouses. And he thought, I don't have to take it all the way now. I can get the wife to do it. And drops it on the path and runs on through, down and through the forest and into the house. And that's when his wife came and stood there for a moment, and he said, I got some stuff. I got my pack. It's over in the pathway. Go get it. He sat down and he put his claws up and was like, yeah. And she came back about 10 minutes later, carrying it and going, is this it? Yeah, what do you mean, is that it? Of course. He stood up and goes, let's see it. Okay, and she set it down, and I went open, 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 open. And there was a row of rotten wood. And that's how Raven lost his venison. So that is the end. I love telling that story because it shows how our people in our culture always had reasons for things and the way they happen. The tests are kind of to show that character is built or character can be broken down. It all went the exact same, and that's what I find so very funny. It's like a video deal. You're facing the exact same situation, the exact same everything. But it came out a different scenario for both the men. So I appreciate you guys listening. Yes.